The proof is in the pudding, and the pudding in this case is a football. Boom! Eat my goal! The goalie has got football pie all over his shirt.
Welcome to this latest episode of the Down the Pub podcast. We've been away a little bit because there was two games kind of back to back, so we thought we'd kind of just review them together, do a double header. So Gary's with me here again. We're going to look at the Valour and Cavalry game. So how you doing, Gary?
Good. Last time we did that, we got a bit lucky because we had one bad performance and one good performance, so it added a bit of balance to what we were talking about. We didn't get so fortunate this time around, though. So
definitely fucking not. So I thought before we get into the games, and like I don't want to get too in depth into it, but there's a lot of talking points I think that we need to go over. But I think before we do that, one of the big things we need to talk about is Willie Akio's miss against us. Like, so he went viral all over the world. He was accused of everything from match fixing to I don't know what. So what did you think? What was your take on it? Like, I don't want to get into it too much, but like it was, we have to talk about it because it was the main talking point pretty much in that game. So
it was really confusing when it happened. I was at the Free House watching the game, and I was sitting with Denton and James and a lady called Becca who I met and her son. And it was very confusing because it all happened and loads of little things happened all at once. And it meant that you couldn't really focus on the hilarity of what had actually just occurred. So firstly, your brain's going, oh shit, Regi is going to get his little revenge story. And then you're thinking, oh, Ox has got it. And then you think it's about to cross the line. And then Akio does what Akio does. And I just remember my brain and everyone in the room just like, what the fuck just happened? It was very confusing and no one could quite work it out because none of us had ever seen that happen before. I mean, I'm in my mid-30s and I've been watching football since I was 5, so let's say 30 years, and I've never seen that happen before, and it was so confusing. And then we were all kind of like going, what the fuck? And then they showed the replay, and everyone just burst into laughter. It was just the absurdity of it. Yeah. Like I wanted the Arrested Development music to be playing over it. Like it just felt like that. Just like what.
The Larry David music.
Yeah. And I said to James just after it happened, like within an hour, every single like banter football meme site is going to get a hold of this and it's going to go viral. And how could it not?
One Soccer are all over it, man. Like as soon as that happened, like they put it out there into the stratosphere, and like within 10 to 15 minutes I was having people message me going like, what the fuck happened? Like people who don't even watch the CPL. And like on the one side it was absurd and it kind of got the CPL out there, I suppose, but then on the flip side it was all just pure banter at our expense pretty much. And like looking back at it, like I don't know, like somebody had mentioned that because that pitch is a CFL pitch, there's a weird like little hump on the goal line. There's like, I don't know if you noticed it, it's kind of a different
darker
color.
Green.
Yeah. So maybe it kind of sat on that and he was like trying to just like lash it into the net or whatever. But the one thing I could say about the guy is like he's pure class. Like, I mean, he came out afterwards and kind of addressed it, I thought, really, really well. He kind of went like, you know, the fuck, and you know, he answered a lot of the doubters and stuff for that. And I thought it was really, really, really well put across his response to it. So, you know, like it's and it'll be
I wonder
forgotten.
like when something like that happens, you think as a player, you're for the rest of the game, you're going, oh shit, this is going to be massive.
Like, I can guarantee you, like when he was on the pitch, I bet he was trying a million times harder than he probably should have, if you know what I mean, because he wants everything to work. And then when he got taken off too, you're sitting on the bench, and I bet he's just like, please God, dig me out this fucking huge hole I've got myself into. And then luckily he was playing the Wanderers and we duly obliged to dig him out of the hole. So
but if you're him, the only way you deal with that is humor, isn't it? I think in life, when you fuck up that like that, obviously, you've just got to laugh at yourself and go.
And I also want to give a little shout out to Daryl Fordyce, the captain at Valour, and he kind of did like a nice like little thing immediately, pretty much after the game. He was like saying, you know, like this is what this guy's capable of, and he showed the goal that he scored against Forge, and I thought it was a really nice little touch to kind of like have us back a little bit. And then obviously while all that was happening, the Ross County move has been kind of talked about, like the worst kept secret in the CPL for like the last month or so. But I mean,
I wonder if that would have been announced a bit sooner. I was kind of thinking that, like, are they just waiting for this to die down a bit before they announce him? Because
fuck yeah, but at least like I got some publicity, I suppose. Well, I mean, like Ross County's turned into Canada's reserve team at this stage. I mean, they've got Victor Latourie who and Willie, and then they've got I think it's Ben Patton is over there. Like Harry was there like last season, but he's left. He said that he's moving on. So they've got a nice little contingent, which will probably obviously help them out. But it was kind of cool, like seeing today, like Ross County tweeting out about like tickets for the Celtic game and stuff like that. So he's going to be involved in some massive games. So it's a huge move for him, and it seems like it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. So
for sure, yeah. One Ross County, I think. The scouting network so vast now that every single club in the world is looking to tap into any new market that comes up. And I think Ross County are hedging their bets a bit and going, this league doesn't look a million miles from our level. Let's just try and get the best players from it really cheap. Because I bet there's not one player in the Canadian Premier League that would be expensive even to a Division 1 Scottish team. So yeah, it's worth a punt, isn't it? Definitely.
Oh, like for those guys, I mean, like, you know, and they signed them to like 3-year contracts as well. So, I mean, like, it's not gonna, like, they're gonna, I'd imagine the wages probably wouldn't be the greatest at Ross County. So, I mean, but it's probably still better than what you can expect in the CPL. But like I must say though, like, I'm pretty happy for him, and it's kind of good in a indirect way for the Wanderers, because obviously Valour are one of our rivals for that fourth spot, and the fact that they've lost one of their best players is obviously good news for us. But then we'll talk about it a little bit later, but their new signings actually did really well against us. I also want to just touch on a little bit. Obviously, we've got a new player coming into the Wanderers, Fumpa Mwandwe. Yeah, I know you've had a bit of a chance to watch him in action. Like, I saw a bit of the last game there. I saw some of the highlights of them winning in Europe, which was kind of a nice touch, I thought, by the Wanderers to let them kind of hang on for that last little game. I know a few people were not so happy because they were like, what if he gets injured, blah 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 blah. But you got to realize, like, that's a huge game, and you know, the team he's coming from is semi-pro, so I mean, that's a huge game for them. So what do you think we can expect from him? What have you seen in the videos you've watched? Because I know you're really good at analyzing this kind of stuff. So I think only compliment you're ever going to get from me, by the way. So
I think on just touching on him maybe not playing in that game, like, I think if you sign someone and then say to them, oh, by the way, we're not going to let you play in the most important game of your life, you alienate them before they've even arrived in the country. And there's going to be a bit of like bad blood about that. I feel like I always like do Arsenal comparisons, but like with William Saliba, we did that to him. Like, we said, you're not allowed to play in the cup final for Saint Etienne, and it really caused some bad blood off the bat. So I was fine with him playing in that, and the fact that he scored the winning penalty as well was really good for him. As a player, I think he's another one of those, like most of our attackers, who can play anywhere across the front three. I think he normally plays from the left. So I messaged, like a bit of a weirdo, I messaged a couple of their fans who I saw active on Twitter, just like slid into their DMs and said, like, what kind of player is he? Where does he play? Like, strengths and weaknesses and stuff. And they all kind of described him as playing on the left of a front three. And I've heard Matt talk, I think he said it in the interview I did with him actually, that we are a bit weak on the left-hand side. So I imagine he'll play in those sort of areas. And it'll be nice to actually have a forward who plays on the shoulder of the defender as well, who can run in behind, because I'm sure we'll get into this later. I think that's a big part of why we struggle and why we look so toothless in attack a lot of the time, because we have a lot of attackers who like the ball to their feet and like to be kind of facing away from the goal, or at least angled sideways, so they're not fully looking at the goal. So just to have a player who's actually going to make those runs repeatedly, like those runs that you make 20 or 30 of a game, but you only get found one out of the 30 times, but you need to keep making those runs. And I think he's going to be that sort of player. And we really do need to improve the left-hand side. Like if you think of our right-hand side, we've got Fernandez at right back. We've got Jeremy, who tends to drift out that way. We've got Sam Salter as our right attacker as well. Like that's a really strong pod, isn't it? And they work really well together. But on the left, it's Gander who's fine, it's Polisi who's fine, and it's sometimes Marshall, sometimes whoever. And it's just not as strong. And we never seem to create much down the left-hand side. So have some kind of threat from that part of the pitch will be nice. And I'm hoping Fumpa is someone that can do that. And he should be fit already. Like he's already playing important games. So he should hit the ground running and be fit. And I mean, I imagine like the Welsh league is quite a physical league as well. So he won't have any problem with that side of it. I messaged a good mate of mine. He's a Welsh guy and he follows the Welsh league, and just asking him what the level's like. And he said it tends to attract a lot of football league players, so League One, League Two, maybe sometimes the Championship, who've just kind of lost their way a little bit and haven't had their contracts renewed at their League One club, and they just kind of need something to re-energize them and refocus them, and it attracts a lot of players like that. So the level will be quite good, I think. Like level-wise, he'll be fine with us and fine in the league. So, yeah, and we just need something. We need to freshen up there, don't we? Like it feels really stale, really, really stale at the moment. So, just something new would be great.
So, what did you think of the fact that they kind of mentioned that they triggered a release clause, which I thought was very odd for a semi-pro team. Like, I mean, like you'd wonder how long the contracts are that these guys are signing, but I mean, that kind of stood out to me that we actually sound like we paid something for this guy. So
yeah, I don't know anything about that. I mean, what I found interesting was, so I think Derek had been talking for a while about an attacking target on Twitter, and it always felt like there was someone they were negotiating with. Like, again, this is me reading between the lines, but it always felt like they had a target who they were negotiating with. And then I saw an interview with Fumpa last week about the signing, and he said, yeah, it all happened really fast. Like I heard there was interest last week, etc., which makes me think they were probably trying to sign someone else. Yeah, but he was always in the back pocket as like, okay, if this doesn't work, then we go for him. This is how much he's going to cost, so we can get it done really quickly. And it feels like that's probably what happened. In terms of transfer fee, yeah, anyone's guess how much it was for, how that fits into the salary cap, etc. I have no idea. I don't know about you.
I think the transfer fee hits your cap, so it goes against whatever you were going to pay him. I was talking to Angus McNabb a little bit about, and he kind of mentioned that. But the thing I feel for this guy, like I Don Belcham had mentioned online that this team that he's playing for, Newtown, play a lot of direct football, so a lot of Route 1 kind of stuff. So what you're saying there about him making those runs and hoping the ball comes, it like sounds kind of like it's a different outlet for us rather than what we're trying to do now. So we have somebody who's going to make those runs, because Peter likes to do those fancy 60-yard cross pitch, and there's never anybody that seems to make that run for him. You know what I mean? So I think it's definitely like an outlet for us. That, like, we have somebody that'll put their head down and just run. You know what I mean? And we just seem to be lacking in that right now. But
it seems really quick as well. So
yeah, but I feel a little bit bad for him in a way, because we've kind of built this transfer up now, because like Derek had mentioned it, Matt had mentioned it, there was a Wanderers Wednesday, there's a Wednesday that went past when it wasn't announced, and there's kind of like people like going, what the hell's going on? And then he's announced and stuff like that, and the team's obviously struggling right now. Like, I mean, that's a lot of pressure for him to come into, to kind of like, you're the savior of our season pretty much, right? Because like this is it. Like, I mean, like we're probably going to, like, Gander, I think, and Sal go back to university or somebody, like, so we're probably going to lose, so we're going to have to bring two players in to replace them, but they're not going to be the blockbuster that this is kind of being heralded as. So it's a lot of pressure for him, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably from our perspective, it might seem like it, but if you're him, you've played for, I don't think you ever played for them, but you've come through the Shrewsbury Academy. You've just been playing in Europa Conference League playoff matches, and you come into a league where I doubt he knows really anything about this league or the expectations. He certainly wouldn't be reading what fans are saying on social media or Discord or whatever. Like, I bet for him it's water off the duck's back. Like, I don't imagine he feels anything beyond. Like, he's just scored a penalty in a Europa Conference League playoff match.
Yeah,
like that's pressure. Like moving to Canada and trying to help a team on the East Coast climb from mid-table to fourth is. I can't imagine that will phase him in the slightest, to be honest. So yeah, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. He's come through the English football system's youth setup, which is the most highly pressurized sporting environment in the world, I think, where you've got like probably thousands of kids vying for about 100 places. It's incredibly stressful and pressurized at a really young age as well, like 14, 15. So yeah, he'll be good.
I've just been sending them like lots of like the screenshots from the Discords and stuff like that, just to say like, this man, don't mean to put pressure on you, but if you're shit, we're fucked.
Yeah. I mean, I DM'd him saying, "Don't fuck this up. Do not fuck this up."
No pressure, bud. But there's a whole city waiting. So just one more before we move on to Valour. There was something. This is something that I kind of wanted to always ask you. So there's been a lot of stuff about Jacob Shaffelburg again on Twitter. I guess he's talking about them. He's moving, or there might be something going on. Do you ever think it's a possibility? Because people here, like, it's their wet dream that he turns up here, and because obviously it's another one of those kind of hometown hero situations. But do you think there's ever going to be a time when we'll bring him in here on loan? Because I think we need to kind of just work out what's actually ever going to be a possibility.
I think he'll be like a Nick Ledgerwood. I think he'll come here when he's 34, 35 and just captain the team for a couple of years, retire, then move into like the coaching world. I don't actually want him to come, because I think it would be, I don't think he'll want to. Like, for him, that will seem like,
step backwards.
Sounds awful, but it seemed like failure to him, I reckon. Like, because the whole thing with him is he's the one that's risen above all this and like got to the MLS and is like trying to become a proper professional who's earning a good living out of this sport. And I think to come back to Wanderers, it'd be brilliant for us, and he'd be the best player in the league instantly. But I think personally for him, he doesn't want that. I think he wants to make it at Toronto, and I'd rather that happen.
It's the same. Like, I mean, like he's been capped by Canada and everything like that now, right? I mean, so like, exactly, it's kind of, I feel like you're right. I think we kind of need to get that over our heads a little bit. That's going to happen. I don't like. I think that if he leaves Toronto, it's going to be to another MLS team, because I saw it. You know, like, people are pissy and shitty on Twitter. Like, they're kind of saying that, like, you know, he's great up to a certain point, but then his final ball is not great. And I was just like, that's the last thing we fucking need here. We already have like 10 players that can do that already. We need another one.
And have them people never watched the young winger before? Like, that is every single young winger is brilliant until the final ball. Like, that's kind of what you get with 21, 22-year-old speedy players. Like, welcome to football. Yeah, that's the game.
So we hate to be heartbreakers here, and we hate to be like grumpy old men and like those two old dudes from the Muppets, but there you go. He's not coming. I also just getting into the Valour game here. Like,
I thought you were going to push it off again. I thought you were doing everything you could to keep kicking that can down the road.
I actually did that one thing. I actually did that one more thing to talk about, but I was like, fuck, I can't keep putting it off. So let's get into the Valour game. So Stephen Hart said afterwards that we were very lethargic in the first half. We did not play very, very well. I must say, they were all over us. And I think had that goal gone in and had stood, we were in for a hiding. Like, we were awful. Like, we were all over the place defensively. They were cutting us to shreds. Like, I think our lack of pace was shown up quite a lot. And I think that, like, this, to me, this was a game when Restrepo should have started. You know, like, this was like, you know, you've got like speedy forwards, and like, I just think that we were like, we've got, when it's Santos and Peter are there and we're playing against speedy forwards, we're always on the back foot, you know. So and like, Gander isn't exactly blessed with pace either, God bless him. Like, so the only one that's really in the back line that's got a bit of pace is Fernandez, right? So
Fernandez, we need Fernandez up the other end of the pitch as well. Like, he's a right back, but he's more important to us in an attacking sense.
So what did you think of that before we get into the set? Because obviously we changed things up a little bit, but what did you think of that first half performance? I thought it was diabolical. I thought it was atrocious. So
yeah, it wasn't great. I mean, I to be honest, the emphasis would be more on the attackers rather than the defenders. Like that's what looked really poor to me. Just the balance of those three, of Daniels, Garcia, and Marshall. Like it's kind of what we were talking about earlier, how having attackers who want the ball to their feet and don't really want to run it behind, and those three really, like you don't really stretch teams when you've got those three there. Like the balance, like on paper, I feel like the balance almost makes sense, but it just didn't work. There was no depth to how we looked. There was no one kind of stretching Valor's defenders. So, and our distances were really, really poor. Like I was trying to watch it back to because I couldn't really work out why it was so bad. I was like watching it again and again, like the first 20 minutes, like what is actually happening here? Why is it not working? And it was just our distances, our speed of pass, doing nothing first time. Like absolutely no one was playing the ball first time. And I feel like this is a much longer discussion than we can really have now, or anyone would want now. But like, if we really drill down into like the whole idea about how we play now, with Dorado coming in and like it's positional play, isn't it? What's the fucking Portuguese way go de position? I don't fucking know, but like that's the idea, positional play. So you've got like when you use positional play, you're supposed to have three advantages on the pitch. You're supposed to have a numerical advantage, a qualitative advantage, and a positional advantage. So numerical basically overloads, like isolating their fullback to film one, etc. Qualitative, you identify which of their players have got weaknesses. You make sure your players are in situations where your players with strengths can expose those weaknesses. So, for example, they've got a slow centre back who makes slow recovery runs. Okay, we put our best players in transitions around him to kill him on the counter. Positional advantages. So, yeah, finding ways to get our players between the lines. So that's what we're doing. Like by playing with a lone six, by playing with 2/8, that is what we are doing. But again, and we've talked about this a million times, you need to play with pace and you need to play with conviction to actually make that work. And if you don't, it just looks a mess. And that looked a mess on Saturday, didn't it? Like
we mentioned it with the Ottawa game, like how slow everything was, like that. Like it's just there's no pep, there's no like kind of like as you said, like the transitional play is just so slow, and it's like it's awful to watch when it's like that. It's like you're expecting like and I think as well, it's like it's not the midfielder's fault either, because there's nobody give them the option to do that, because like I felt like the trio up front just weren't doing anything, like I mean it was like, and I hate like having to be like an asshole, and I say this all the time, and I don't mean to be mean, because these guys are professional footballers and they're living the dream and all that kind of stuff, but at the same time though, they're professional footballers, and like when you're not doing the job you're supposed to do, like somebody has to call it out. And I think we need a serious like look at the quality and the level of the players that we have compared to everybody else in the league, because like I don't think Akeem Garcia gets into another team in the league unless it's out on loan to Edmonton. I'm like Marshall again, like he hit the post in the second half, but that was pretty much all he did. And that, like, where do we go with Daniels? Like, I mean, he's probably one of the top players on the, and it's like the Marshall thing all over again. We're just waiting for everything to click for him. It's like we're constantly waiting, and it's like we're over halfway through the season now, and it's like we're constantly waiting for our top level players to click into gear, and they're not, whereas every other club their players are, you know what I mean? Like it's frustrating, to be honest with you.
I think with that, I don't think it's like, I don't think we've got worse players than other, like York and Edmonton are below us by some distance. We're very close to, not very close, but we're close-ish to like Valour, and we're still probably the fifth best team in the league, and I don't think fifth or sixth best team in the league. So I think from a quality perspective, most of the players are okay. I don't really want to, we'll maybe do a bit of a like post-mortem at the end of the season where we are a bit more cutthroat about who should be here and who shouldn't. I don't want to do it right now. But there are some players who definitely shouldn't be here anymore. I think most people can figure out who they are. I'm not sure it's a quality thing, because like you said, Daniels, he's one of the best players in the league on his day, but when's it his day recently? It's getting used to a new league, I suppose. And it's, I'm starting to get to the point where I'm not sure, like just the tactically the way we play, whether it's in attack especially. Like, I think midfield, it suits us. Like, I think playing how we do, it really suits the midfielders, but the attackers not so much. And it comes back. I kind of made a point in my head of never using this as an excuse on this podcast, but there comes a point where you think of João Morelli and like, what would this look like if he was there? And it would look a lot different, because you'd have someone like, where it all breaks down. His thing was he existed in those areas where it usually breaks down, and he's the one that makes things happen from there. And not having him, and it kind of looks like a risk now, doesn't it? Like, going, okay, he'll be okay for the whole season. Like, yeah, it feels like a risk now, but yeah, I don't know how. I don't know, mate. I don't know. I said, like, I agree with you. Like, I don't want to get into, like, that's why I hate talking about players' abilities and stuff like that, because it's not really fair, because as well, like, they're being asked to play in a system that doesn't seem to suit an awful lot of them either. Like, I mean, like, a lot of the problems I find with the scouting stuff that goes on in the CPL is so much of it is a punt, because you're just watching videos. You're not actually going to go and scout these people, right? I mean, you're getting a highlight tape, you're watching game videos, you're getting stats from Opta, whoever, and that's basically what you're basing everything on. Like, so you're not actually getting to see them. Hence the Forge and Cavalry Foothill Sigma advantage, because they've worked with those guys that have seen them day in, day out. Yeah.
So they know their weaknesses, and I mean, that's the problem when you're getting game tapes. Like, you can't always pick out the weaknesses, but at the same time, though, I mean, like, we kind of can't not talk about, like, is this a management thing? Like, do we need to move on from? I don't mean to throw the grenade at you, but I mean, like, and I know there's so many people here in the city that are big Stephen Hart fans. There's all sorts of stuff on Facebook where people are kind of getting into it and all this kind of stuff. But in the game against Cavalry, which we'll get into in a little bit, he just looked dejected on the bench. Like, and I understand, like, it's obviously the pressure, we're losing, but he just looked bereft of ideas. And it's kind of like, you know, we're coming into the 3.5 years, 4 years or whatever of the team. And like, I honestly don't think we've progressed. And yeah, I'm sure you're going to disagree with that, but it just feels like we're just plodding along and we're just hoping that something is going to click into gear, and it's not. And it's starting to, like, you know, we thought the Pacific game was going to be this big turnaround, but it wasn't. It was just a false dawn, because the performances have just been absolutely dire. Like, so, I mean, where do you sit with that?
I
grenade.
No, cheers, mate. No, I think like football's a really emotional sport, isn't it? We're so invested in it because when we win, it releases a happy chemical, and we all want that happy chemical. And when we don't get it, we're fucking furious, because we're like that's why it's so annoying when you don't win, isn't it? Because your body's like, give me that good thing, like. So I understand, like, but like with perspective applied, like it's been 14 games and we're 6th. We're not like bereft in 8th, like 10 points adrift. Like, we're 6th. We've played 3 or 4 more games away from home than we've played at home. Like, okay, the home form hasn't been great, but Forge, like, it's not great, but it's not the end of the world. And the season definitely isn't over yet. Like, we'll put a run together at some point of winning 3 in a row, and we'll all think, okay, right, we're here now. We might make the playoffs, we might not. Like, I think everyone needs to remember, like we look at things very solipsistically, don't we? Like, tunnel vision, because all we really think about is our club. But every single club is throwing all their resources at finding the best players, at building the best setup as well. Like, every single club is, and we're competing with other clubs who are doing just as much as us to do that. So it's a bit of a crapshoot to actually kind of rise above. Like, even look at Pacific, who kind of struck gold last year, but they're in free fall now. Like, they're our rivals now, like Pacific and us, and like just from losing 2 players. So I think we do need perspective. I hate and I understand all of the discord around the manager and whether Hart out or whatever, because I just hate it when things get this binary, and I hate it when you kind of pick your side at some point, and now, like, no one's going to change their minds now, whatever happens. I don't think if you are someone who's really Hart out now, like, you build your whole kind of Wanderers online persona around that. And it's really hard to come back from that, because that involves admitting at some point I was wrong. And even I kind of aim that at myself as well, because I'm very much Hart in. Like I really like on a human level, I really respect him, to be honest. I've chatted to him a few times. I really like him as well, which I know isn't the grounds for someone being a good coach, but that does obviously affect how you react to a manager and wanting him to stay in a job. Like, we're humans, it's impossible for it not to. So obviously I'm kind of the other side of that, of now, am I never going to be able to kind of take a step back and look at things objectively and go, actually, no, it might be time, because I'm so far down that road as well. And it's just, I live through this with Arsenal, and I hated it with Arsenal, with like the Wenger in, Wenger out stuff. It was so tedious and so tiresome. And I think there are conversations you have at the end of the season, to be honest. Like internally, Derek and Matt, on whoever else is on kind of that side of it, they'll have internal KPIs, won't they? Of like, these are the targets. If we fall this far below this target, then it's time for a change and things like that. And I'm kind of sorry, I know it's a bit of a weird tangent, but like, just also on this, like, I've seen in a lot of places people saying Dorado should be promoted to head coach and he should be in control of things. It's like, who the fuck do you think is doing the tactics? Like, who do you think is in charge of like creating this new way of playing in this new system? Like, when we talk about, like, it's almost kind of like tongue in cheek now, isn't it? Like, the system, like, that's Dorado. And like, I know he's new and fresh, but it's his system and his way of playing. Like, Hart is now more of he kind of oversees things. So I don't know, that I feel like if you did that, it'd be like a restaurant serving shit food and you fire the chef and promote the line cooks. That's basically what it would be doing. Like, so I don't see that as a viable option. I think they're in it together very much. So yeah, it's messy, and it's going to be a lot of uncomfortable conversations going forward.
And I think that's part of it too, is that who replaces them. And like, I mean, at this stage of the season, you know, like the people that have been kind of, I've heard, like, obviously, like Jimmy Brennan's available and like, I wouldn't want Jimmy Brennan near our club. Like, I like, no disrespect to him, but, you know, like, I saw the way he acted, like, on One Soccer after the York game, and he was practically giddy with the fact that they're not doing so well. You know what I mean? I just don't think that's
I don't
what we need here in the city. And you know, you're right. I mean, a lot of people are saying like it's time for Hart to step aside and bring Dorado through, but like, that is the plan overall, I guess, at some stage. I mean, like, there's not, like, let's not kid ourselves. Like, Stephen Hart is in his 60s now, right? And Dorado's 35, so like, he's not there for no reason. There's obviously a plan here of when Stephen goes, but I see it from the other side too, where people are just like, you know, like, I feel like it's the people who've been there, like, through it all, and I've kind of seen so many of these turgid displays, and it hurts though, you know. And it's like, you know, like, it's, I totally get where it's coming from, because, like, you know, like, you go to the game, you're buoyed up, you know, people are singing and they're chanting, having a great time, and, you know, and then it's like you're let down. And then when you're sitting in the pub with a couple of people who, you know, we talked before, the watch parties weren't the thing, and now they are, and it's like, you know, another horrible display, and you're like, you know, I'm taking time out of my life to come and watch this, you know, and it's like, it's just disappointing, because this is your fun, right? I mean, this is their fun. This is like what we do for shits and giggles, and it's horrible.
I remember at the end of the Ottawa game, Shep turned to me and he was like, "This is the thing I spend all week looking forward to."
I know, right? It's like, it's fucking mad. So anyway,
I know, I do get it, and like, that's why I'm trying not to be too much of a, this is my side, I believe in the manager. Yeah. Like, I'm really trying to, and I do see it from the other side, how frustrating it can be. But I don't know, I always hope spring's eternal, doesn't it? I've seen like enough little flashes where I think maybe, but yes, it's not been.
I'm hoping this little break that they've had kind of refocus the stuff, and like, it's just every time we talk, the next game is massive, but like, this Edmonton thing is fucking huge.
Mate,
we need to win that fucking game. Like, I like, honestly, like, it's I just feel like if we don't win that game, it's going.
I'm deleting Twitter. Yeah. I've already got rid of the Discord. I'm getting rid of Twitter as well if we lose that.
Yeah, I was gonna clear fucking social media altogether.
Blogs done. The thing is with like that game, it could get messy after that game if we lose that. I can see there being like an audible reaction to losing that. I think there'll be like a boos and stuff. So fingers crossed we don't.
I know. I'm really hoping we win that one. So, like, just to finish off the Valour game, we did kind of come into the game a little bit when I think Corey Bent came on at some stage, and we kind of had a bit more pace to it, and we had somebody who was being a bit more direct, and I think he put them under pressure. Their backline, as you mentioned, like their backline is quite slow. Like they're really good in the air, but they're very, very slow. And I think that that kind of we actually looked like we were on the front foot, and then the goal came and kicked us all in the bollocks. But you know, I did kind of want to ask you about what's happening with Tabby. Like where do you see, like he's been brought on like towards the end of games now as a left winger rather than like what he's brought in as a wing back, I guess.
Yeah.
Like where like Gander's going to go back to school at some stage. So like what are they doing to this guy? I'm puzzled.
Tabby, yeah, me too. So I remember talking to you about him a lot actually in the early podcast. Like we always kind of focused on him, didn't we, at the start of the season, and he was making a lot of little mistakes, but I think we were both saying like every game he looks a little bit better, but then the next game would come around and he'd make another mistake. And I think they probably took him out to protect him a bit because he was getting a bit of attention for giving away penalties and so on. They probably took him out to protect him a bit. Gander came in and has looked pretty solid, and they've just gone, let's just kind of leave it as it is. And like bringing him on as a left winger, like you don't really see fullbacks getting subbed off very often, do you? Unless there's an injury. So you wouldn't really bring him on as a left back. I guess the idea is pace on the counter attack. Yeah, I think it's as simple as that. Like if we're looking for a goal, we either stick Peter Schala as centre forward and launch him up to him, or I guess Tabby is now like plan F, where you just go
because Robinson comes on and then it's usually Tabby. So.
I thought Robinson looked quite good when he came on against.
Me too. I think he's a pretty decent player, and I think the thing with Tabby is they're in danger of killing his confidence altogether by not playing him, because if Gander does go back and he's a natural replacement for him, like you need to start playing him. You need to give him game time, because if you just sit him on the bench and then just throw him in, it's not going to end well. And I just
well, the last time Gander didn't play, so played left back instead, didn't he?
Yeah.
So which makes me think they don't really trust him. Yeah,
which is horrible when you think about it.
Yeah.
So that was the end of that debacle, and then we moved on to the next debacle game.
The debacleist of all the debacles.
Oh god. So where do we start off with this one? So the lineup was a little bit different. It was almost like we were playing like a back three with this one.
I noticed like really early on the camera pan, and I hadn't really clocked it, to be honest. I was like half watching, and the clock pan to Tommy Wilden Jr. and you see him. Did I say the camera pan to him, and you see him pointing at his assistant and holding three fingers up and like kind of asking the question like three. So I thought then like, I should probably like pay attention to see if there's something different, because then we played exactly the same in every game in this season. So I just expect it now. And like sure enough, we're playing three at the back. So Santos was the centre of those three, Schala to his right and so to his left. Corey was the left wing back and Fernandez was the right wing back. And it was interesting. Like we looked quite good before the sending off. I thought we looked quite good like that, because it surprised Cavalry. Like they'd obviously set up to play against 4-1-2-3, and then they were playing against 3-5-2, and the players didn't really know what to do. We were popping up in positions they weren't expecting, and it was quite nice to see. Like from a goal kick, normally our centre back split and Rampersad drops into the little pocket to get the pass, but Rampersad and JGL and Polisi were standing like close to our strikers on goal kicks, and like Schala and So were split in, and Santos was being like the pivot to like build play and stuff, which I thought was really interesting, because it just gives us a few more options like beyond their midfield. So we look good. We were asking a lot of questions, and it's just really annoying that sending off happened, because I think we might have got something out of that.
Like if Salter had taken that chance, I thought the game would have been totally different. I was kind of, he should have finished it, But
it was a good chance.
But then I know that you kind of posted some stuff about this sending off, so I'm just going to give you my take before I get yours. I just think that like everybody knows that Joe the chair is an asshole, and he's that kind of player.
Morelli sent off as well, didn't he?
Yeah, so he's that kind of player, right? And I just thought that we played totally into his hands because, like, on first viewing, the tackle that went in on Kareem Sow, I thought was actually an okay tackle. But then when I watched it again, I was like, okay, that's a shitty tackle. And then, like, we just didn't need to get involved. You know, like, I know it kind of, you get angry and you want to stand up for your teammates and all that stuff, but like, these guys are like wind-up merchants and they're just gonna get you sent off. And I just thought it was very naive for somebody who's a Canadian international to fall into that trap. And I just thought he kind of gave them. And the refereeing was fucking terrible, by the way. The referee lost control of that game so quickly. It was horrible. But it was just. And the worst thing was seeing how horrible the walk off is at that stadium. Do you see, like, you have to like walk out to a corner and then somebody's opening a tailgate or something to let you out. It's fucking horrible.
And like, you got to walk right in front of their fans as well, behind the goal. Yeah.
Well, you're standing there waiting for some donkey to come over and open the fucking gate for you. It's fucking ridiculous.
He's got to pull his ID out of his sock.
So what was your take? I know you kind of went into a little bit more in depth on Twitter.
I was so honestly, mate, I like try not to be too ranty on Twitter, but I was so wound up by it. I was really angry. Yeah, it was just. I know what you mean, like, but I think like he was trying to be like. It happened right in front of him. It was a nasty tackle. And I think Jeremy was just trying to be like the elder statesman, look after the kid, like So's a young guy, like stand up for him. And I think, and this is why it really annoys me, because he didn't actually make that little, you know, sometimes when players pretend they've been headbutted, it's because the other person like moves their head slightly and then they're like, right, that's it, I'm going down. The annoying thing about this was that didn't even happen. They were like, Jeremy was literally just face to face with him and didn't move his head forward. And the guy just kind of fell backwards. It was absolutely absurd. And like there's one of the replays you can see, like, while this is happening, the referee is talking to Charlie Trafford and 100% doesn't see what happened. Like, she definitely didn't see what happened.
So it's the linesman that gave it, right?
It must have been the linesman, and what the linesman must have seen is Di Chiara falling, because if he'd have actually seen what happened, there's not in a million years that's a sending off. Yeah. So it's a lot. It's just official. It's guesswork, isn't it? It's a linesman going, oh shit, I've seen someone fall over. That's probably a thing I should tell the referee about. It's the referee who's dealing with a chaotic situation of people pushing each other and stuff. And I just don't see how you can make a decision like that unless you're absolutely sure of what you've seen. And they weren't. Otherwise, it couldn't have been a red card.
I hate. There's one thing I hate in football, and it just doesn't happen in other sports as much, as like the surrounding the referee like that. And I just thought that the forwards do it quite a lot too. They're always in the referee's faces, and I think they try to intimidate people into making, and I think it was Sergio Camargo who's literally like chasing her around the place, like trying to say something. And I hate seeing it, but it's always like the good guys like get fucked over by that stuff because they don't do it. And Stephen Hart, like, I must say, like, after his press conference afterwards, like, he said himself, I never talk about the standard of refereeing, but like, he basically said it was terrible, because I think for their first goal, he was unhappy with the challenge on Daniels by Yao, that like kind of was I think it was Creepio.
It was Yao and Daniels. Yeah. I thought that was okay, to be honest. That challenge. That's not the thing I'd have been annoyed about.
I'd be more pissed. I know, but I'd be more pissed off at the fact that Daniels went on that ridiculous run anyway, and then how easy it was to split her defense open. Like, like don't be
distances. Santos and Charla, the distances there were.
That back three were atrocious the whole game. They were all over the place. Like Camargo's goal, like I'd say
second half. I thought it was second half. First half, but as soon as that first goal went in, it was just like
the dominoes just fell, didn't they?
Yeah,
you know. And I just, like, they were all over the place. Like the third goal, like Camargo's goal, they just didn't mark their runners. Like he just sauntered past like Sal and Santos and just buried the ball, and it was just. I think
that's what happens when you do switch from playing with a back four to a back three. Like, your distances aren't there because you're not running on autopilot anymore, are you? Where you've kind of got a rope between each other. You know how far away you are. Now there's someone else there as well, and you're like, oh, should I be more this way? And so that is the downside to it. Even though we look quite good from in an attacking way.
And it was just like, I thought we were really good for the first like 25 minutes. I thought we were giving them a really good game. I think we were definitely asking questions, and then it just kind of fell apart. Like was it 9 minutes those 3 goals happened, and it was just it was just awful. And
I turned it off after the third one.
And I feel so bad for, like, people have been clamoring for Basket to start, and he gets put into that fucking shit show, the poor bastard. Like, I mean, it's just like his luck right now that, like, I don't think any of the goals were his. Like, for the header, like, there's a friend of mine who used to be a goalkeeper, and he was kind of saying that, you know, like, for the header for the second one, like, he should be like looking to push that out away from, like, you know, around the post kind of thing, rather than back into the danger area, which I kind of get, but I thought it was actually a pretty decent save because it came at him quite fast. I thought he played okay, actually. I thought he did okay. Like, he made some good saves towards the end there. Like, they were asking, like, they were taking quite a lot of shots at us and stuff like that. But I feel so bad for him, and we're going to have to start playing him because we need you in the 21 minutes. And I think he's still.
You can't rely on Fernandes to get all of them.
Yeah,
I think Fernandes is going to get all of them, isn't he? At the moment.
And I know, is it Robinson as well? I think Robinson has like 200 or something like that. But I mean, sooner or later we're going to have to stick Basket in, and it's going to be another one of those, like with Tabby we're talking, where it's like his confidence like is going to be shot. So like games like this are not happening. I mean, like he's part of that awful the Forge one, and now this, you know. So it's confidence. Yeah, it's not, I feel kind of bad for him, but, you know, like, I
think he'll play against Edmonton as well. I've got a feeling I think he'll play the next few games.
So just looking ahead to this, to the Edmonton, like, obviously Edmonton have started to play a lot better. Like, you know, one of our players is probably their best player this season. Yeah. So what do you think? Like, I mean, they've had a bit of time off now too, and we've had a bit of time off, so they're going to be well rested when they get here and stuff like that. Like, so. What are you thinking? Are we going to see the new guy from the start, or is he going to play a bit part, or what do you think is going to happen?
I think he will probably start on the bench, depending on, because it's going to be in a week's time, but there'll still be that little bit of getting used to a new time zone and things like that, won't there? Like, I think he arrived yesterday, from what I can tell from Instagram stories and stuff. So, I imagine probably on the bench, and then he'll start the following week. We're at home again, because we've got quite a few home games coming up now, which is good. Like we were saying earlier, we always say like next match is the big one. I know, right? Jesus, but it does feel like we're entering a 4-week period where if we're not at least in touch in the next,
we're done
at the end of August. If we're not in touch, then it's another season of just vibes. Just Wanderers grounds vibes.
Just go and just get shit faced and not care about what's happening.
Exactly. So, which it was towards the end of the 2019 season. It was that, wasn't it? For like the last month or 6 weeks. It was just.
So the last time we played, was it? I think against, when we played against Ottawa. Did JGL and Rampersad play together?
Yes, they did.
Because we're going to be missing JGL for this game, because I know they're appealing there. So if he is missing, how would you go about like the midfield? What would you do?
They normally plug them off in, don't they, to whichever one of them's not there. So it'll be, if we're going back to the 4-1-2-3 thing, it'll be Rampersad as a 6, and then the 2 8s, Lamoth and Palisi. Which is fine. Like, I think we've talked about this before, but I'm not too fussed about one of Rampersad and Jeremy being out. It's just when they're both out, we look really, really short. So I think we'll be okay.
Yeah. So there was one other thing I want to talk to you. Oh yeah. So have you heard anything about Mo Omar? What's going on with this guy? Like, so we saw like a little like get to know him thing the other day from the club, although he's been with us for like 6 months now, or whatever it is. So like, is he injured? Like, there's very little details coming out about what's going on with him. And I mean, he was another one of our like blockbuster signings in the off season, along with Daniels and things like that. Like, so like, have you heard anything that's going on with him?
I think he's been injured. I think like he at the start of the season, pre-season, he was injured. Then he came back and he played against Guelph and Forge. He played against as well. Played a bit against Edmonton, and then he got injured again. And then he was supposed to start against Edmonton away, and he got injured again. So I think what's happening is, like his body's just getting used to being a professional player and training day in, day out, like training at a level of intensity, which he's probably not used to. And if you look at just him, just like his physical makeup, like he's quite a slight, he's tall, but he's quite slight, isn't he? Like he's not the meatiest player. And I think if you look at the other players we've had who have come from university to us, like Karajovanovic, Peter, Corey, like they're all quite robust looking, aren't they? Like physically, they look like strong. They look strong, don't they? Muscular. Whereas with him, I think he's just quite slight, and his body's just getting used to training day in, day out. And that's it's a shame really, because I think they were probably banking on him being quite a big part of our season, but the reality now is, and I think even no matter what happens in the second half of the season, like this is now his like, how would you put it, like development season almost. This is a season where he kind of gets used to being a professional, and next year, okay, we kick on and like we see what you've got. Because, and I don't think they thought that was going to happen. I think the idea was probably that he'd come in and be at least like a very important squad player, if not a starter. So yes, it's a shame, but hopefully he can get fit. Hopefully he can show flashes, and we'll see what the second half of the season brings.
We just don't want him to be another Yusuf. So it's just,
mate. We've seen him on the pitch, so he's already played more minutes than Yusuf. I think he might play in the under-23 games. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Speaking of which, that's coming up. Is it next week? Did you get your tickets?
Yeah. So I didn't think they'd sell very quickly, so I bought my ticket, my season ticket, where I always sit for both games. And my mates Shep and Glenn, who I sit with, I was going to send them a message going, oh, by the way, don't forget, like before the game, because they're awful with remembering. And then I checked the other day, and all of my row around me is sold out.
Wow.
They've sold a lot of tickets. So I was like, oh, brilliant. I'm just basically going to be sitting here on my own then. But whatever. I might just like pick a couple of, like ask around who the best players on the under-23 side are, and just spend the game doing a little bit of amateur scouting and seeing. So
will we see a blog?
Like a blog
about the under-23s, a blog post?
No.
Why not?
Did you say there was a blog post?
No, is there going to be one?
Oh, right. Maybe, yeah. I haven't got the stamina.
Don't put yourself out, like, Jesus Christ, man, it's your fucking job.
If they want to get,
sorry for asking to do the thing that you do in your spare time.
No, sorry, I misheard you. I thought you said someone else had written one, and I was like, oh, I didn't see that.
I saw you stealing your fucking thunder. Huh? I saw you backing up there. I was like, there's another blogger? Fuck off.
Merchant Sailor's better than me. He'll do one because he follows all of like the youth football here. So I bet he'll do something. Like, I hope he does like do you remember when he used to do the previews before the drafts, and he'd like write up on all of the, I don't know how he knows all that shit, but like he does. So hopefully he does one for
knows his stuff, eh?
Mate, I think he's been to do with like the university football for years. So yeah, he knows all of the players he'll know every single player on the under-23 team. He will like know the name of their dentist. Like he knows it all.
So man, it's been horrendous going back over these two fucking games. But it's been kind of good, like talking about little bits and pieces in between.
Therapy, isn't it?
There's a lot of stuff going on. I was surprised to see a Wolves flag at the Cavalry games. We had a Wolves flag draped over.
No way.
So if anybody from Calgary is listening, which I doubt, but if you are and you know what the stories of the Wolves flag, please let us know, because I just thought it was quite random.
when I was chatting to you, was it the last home game when my mate Shep walked past and you didn't know who he was, but you were like, has he got a fucking 1995 Ipswich shirt on? So Legend. I think that's our version of it. Like if the camera picked him out in the crowd, people would be like, an Ipswich shirt from 1995 with like the tie-up collar and stuff.
License. We've got the big game on Saturday. We've got the big interview tomorrow. So yeah, man, I'll talk to you then.
Folks, please. Right foot, please. Time to drink up, folks. Get out. Out to book.